In Warriors, we have many sources that could be considered canon, sources that often contradict each other or make interpretations of characters and events questionable. At the center of it now is the Warriors family tree, a mishmash of nearly everything we've ever heard even passively about character relations in the series. Today, I will be methodically going through the family tree on the Warriors website and discussing every case where the relation put forward is not established within the canon of the books. If a relationship you find on the tree is not mentioned, that is probably because it is confirmed somewhere in the books, or because it wasn't on the family tree yet when this video was made. Just in case, here's a picture of the whole family tree as I see it for you to compare against. I will declare vehemently, and repeatedly if necessary, that the family tree on the website is not itself a source for what is canon. It takes its own information from other places, both the books and the Warriors Wiki, which has at different periods included information from author chats, Facebook messages, the Warriors app, and other sources outside of the books. These decisions could easily be changed or contradicted in the blink of an eye if the team behind Warriors ever decided to write something new into their books, so they carry very little weight. It is also often the case that, when a single person makes offhanded comments, little to no thought is put into the wide-reaching consequences of those decisions, so it can create bad impressions of the characters we know that wouldn't have to exist if more thought was put in. The only remotely concrete information we have is what is said somewhere in the published texts, and so that is the standard by which I will judge this family tree. That isn't to say that information in the books can't provide bad implications too, but it is less likely to be contradicted in future material, as it was agreed upon by the team behind the books. In addition, because the wiki has begun to cite the family tree in place of the original source, and since the family tree appears to pull from the wiki, we can get something of a cyclical canon where it is difficult to tell what is true and what came from where. This is why I feel it is important to parse everything out now. Having tons of interweaving relations is great for making a visually appealing family tree, but it can be detrimental when it comes to writing an ongoing story over many generations, where the characters need to keep interacting and becoming mates. But let it be known before we begin that you are allowed to take any of these relations as canon for your own projects or in your own head to establish more relations with relevant characters. I would just avoid using them in arguments, because they are not as set in stone as one would prefer to have in their evidence, and you should definitely not get upset with anyone who doesn't take these relations as canon, as the strength of these sources is more a matter of opinion than anything else. I'll be taking these editions clan by clan to keep it from becoming too chaotic, and because it has by far the most focus in both the series and the family tree, I will begin with Thunderclan. First of all, Oakstar is listed as Fallow Song's sibling, and even the Warriors Wiki says this is a mistake, and it is his mate Sweetbriar who is supposed to be her sibling. However, even that relationship was never established in the books. This one is from Facebook, something you will notice is a theme throughout a lot of these. While we did know that Windflight's father was previously a Windclan cat, his name, Eaglestorm, was never said in the books. This is also from Facebook, a fan's interpretation on Vicky's page. Also on Facebook came more information about Windflight, like him being the mate of Rainfur and therefore the father of Thrushpelt, Dappletail, and Tawny Spots. Since Windflight already had a different canonical mate, Poppydon, and 3 kits with her, adding these 3 additional kits has huge potential to muddy up the family tree. For example, with this information, Thrushpelt and Thistleclaw are half-brothers, making Thrushpelt and Bluefur sibling-in-laws. Dappletail is said to be Running Wind's mate, and they were said to have 2 kits, Feather Kit and Cricket Kit. But none of these are relationships you could have gleaned from the books. It was, once again, all from a particular fan on Vicky's Facebook. While we all now know, thanks to Greystripe's vow, that Willowpelt is indeed somehow Greystripe's mother, we do not know his father, and we do not know that Darkstripe is also her son. This information came from Victoria Holmes, along with attempts to make Willowpelt and Patchpelt, siblings, mates, and attempts to make Tawny Spots her mate when he had died before she got her warrior name. This is a great example of how off-the-cuff author statements aren't always thought through. Nearly all of Patchfoot's family came from out of the books, being the mate of Robinwing and Goldenflower, and having Longtail, Swiftpaw, and Lynxkit as kits all came from Facebook again. Lynxkit didn't exist anywhere in the books, and without this information, Longtail and Swiftpaw, along with Bramblestar and Tawnypelt, are no longer siblings or related in any way. Hairpounce and Stagleap being mates also originates, say it with me, in Vicky's Facebook. Speckletail and Smallear being mates, and Smallear being the father of Lionheart, Goldenflower, Snowkit, and the otherwise unnamed Mistlekit, was an invention of Vicky's. And here we come to one of the more famous examples. Whitestorm's supposed second mate, Brindleface, and his fatherhood over Ashfur, Ferncloud, and the otherwise non-existent Tulipkit and Elderkit is all unconfirmed in the narrative. Once again, this information is given on Facebook by Vicky and the fan. The family tree also lists Redtail as Brindleface's mate, a relic from the time where Vicky suggested they were Sandstorm's parents. That relationship has been discarded, but they are still listed as mates on the official family tree. And, in what I'm sure is a shocking twist for some of you, Dustpelt being the kid of Robinwing and Fuzzypelt, and the brother of Ravenpaw, Frostfur, Chestnutkit, and Cherrypaw, is also a Facebook invention that was never mentioned in the books. This was previously the case for Ravenpaw as well, but Greystripe's vow went in to make that retconned relationship official. Firestar and Princess's other siblings, Philo, Tommy, and Luna, were named by the Facebook fan on Vicky's page, and the same is true for Princess's mate Oliver and Cloudtail's siblings, Livy, Nami, Zack, and Taylor. And finally, for Thunderclan, Hollyleaf and Fallen Leaves are not mates. The books never say they are mates. They did not ever tell each other they love each other. Fallen Leaves expresses fondness for Hollyleaf at her death, but not to her face, and if there was any love there, it was one way. Even outside the books, Victoria Holmes has said she isn't sure if they would be mates in StarClan. This one is just from the family tree, based mostly on the fact that Fallen Leaves was the only Tom outside her family that Hollyleaf was close to in her life. Now it's time for Shadowclan. Darkflower and Scorchwind being mates and having Rowenstar, Cedarheart, and the otherwise non-existent Lavender Kit is a Facebook retcon. In the books, Rowenstar and Cedarheart are not given any official relation as brothers or otherwise. The names of Yellowfang and Ragged-Star's other two dead kits, Wishkit and Hopekit, were given by Vicky in a letter, but not shown in the books. Finchflight and Dawncloud being mates and being the parents of the otherwise unnamed Swampkit and Blossomkit is another relationship designed by the fan on Vicky's Facebook. This fan also introduced the relationship between Ashheart and Cinderfur that created three otherwise unknown kits, Turtlekit, Rubblekit, and Quiet-Kit. And we're done with Shadowclan! That was much faster than Thunderclan, right? Get used to it. It's not that there are fewer errors in non-Thunderclan cats, but simply that we know far, far more relationships in Thunderclan than anywhere else. So now, let's move on to Windclan. Cloudrunner being Morningflower's mate and the father of Stormkit, Quailkit, and Gorsepaw was information given by the same fan. Shrewclaw and Rystalk being the parents of Mudclaw and Tornir was a reveal on Vicky's Facebook. A lot about One-Star's family was never established in canon. Him and Whitetail being mates, and also the parents of Heathertail, are both Facebook inventions, along with himself, Ashfoot, and Morningflower being siblings, and the kits of Stagleap, a different one than in Thunderclan, and Renflight. Ashfoot and Deadfoot did have other unnamed kits besides Crowfeather, but we don't know how many, their genders, or their appearances, except by information from the fan on Facebook, which left us with Eaglekit, Downkit, and Hillkit. Now it's time for Riverclan. Fallowtail and Cedarpelt are indeed littermaids, but their third sibling, Marshcloud, very well might not be. Marshcloud didn't appear at all in any book other than the Allegiances of Tallstar's Revenge, so he barely even exists. The only reason he is said to be related to Fallowtail and Cedarheart is because of a Facebook post from Kate Carey, one of the ghost writers. Applefrost, Shyheart, and Willownose, listed on the tree as Appledusk and Reedshine's kits, aren't confirmed to exist at all within the books. That couple definitely did get together and had kits, but the story in Mapleshade's Vengeance didn't go on long enough to show us how many kits there were or what their names or genders were. All we knew about Shellheart's mother from Crooked Star's Promise is that she was one of these kits, however many there were. These warriors were named and declared as part of the family by Victoria Holmes in a letter to a fan. Mossπelt is confirmed to be Willowshine's mother, however her mate being Frogleap and her having Dawnflower as a second daughter are both inventions from the fan on Vicky's Facebook page. Blackclaw, being Misty Star's mate and the father of her kits, including Reedwhisker, came again from the same fan on Facebook. And last, and certainly with the least problems, Skyclan, where the only issue is Sharpclaw. His family isn't spoken of much in the books. He mentions he has a mother a couple times, but not her name or anything about her. However, the family tree says that his mother was named Jessamy, and he had a sister called Flower, both pieces of information pulled from the Warriors app. You may have noticed, as I went through these, that less errors began appearing as we crept further and further into the modern day. This is no coincidence. Since the first arc ended and the Errands considered themselves to have a real, long, ongoing series rather than a single, short arc, they started to care far more about the familial and personal relations they established, especially in the protagonist clans. This level of care does prevent us from guessing retroactively who certain characters' mates or parents were, but it also leads to far more crossbreeding among the clans, and a world where nearly every cat is related to each other in a way that isn't conducive to having more relationships between these cats in the future. It is a give and take, but the information is out. All I really want to do with this video is take away a sliver of the misinformation, so we can all proceed with equal knowledge of what the books tell us. Thank you for watching, and always remember to take your sources with a grain of salt.